gonna go into the infinite. Like I said, we may
and beyond.
we may have to we may have to redo the middle part, but that's okay. So the into the infinite, we're going into the
We're going towards the monolith,
monolith.
whatever it is. We don't know, and we don't see it for very long.
No, we don't.
We
and we don't even
transition.
see it. Like, does he enter? We don't see him enter the monolith.
You never see it. It's simply it's viewed from his perspective, but outside of the pod. And as we approach the monolith, there's suddenly a burst of light that emanates from the center of the screen and grows out. And then we begin to see all these colorful effects of the slit scan camera technology that if you were to show it to a youngster, they would assume it was early computer graphics. And
right, but it's
by
not.
God, that's absolutely what it looks like. It looks like you couldn't achieve these effects with anything other than advanced computer graphics. But nope, it's old-fashioned analog, using some clever trickery.
Sure, like taking the camera and going like this.
Yeah, that does happen.
So that Bowman looks like he's
shaking.
Encountering massive gravitational forces
or something. And again, this is where
I'm assuming like a black hole. I'm assuming like an event, like not the, what I mean? Like he's being, there's something going on that's extraordinary.
There's something extraordinary, and we really don't see. We see Bowman in the shaking. Okay, so and he's squinting. So there's feels to him like there's some kind of physical trauma.
So we're having that's done, and it's done in regular camera, like it's done in regular motion. We're able to be a test pilot. We're able to like he's priming us, right?
Yep.
So I think that Kubrick is taking us from this sterile, this more cerebral scene with the syzygy and the tumbling, monolith and the beautiful thing. And now he's like, okay, I'm going to make you feel something.
Right. Yeah. This isn't the quiet desolation of space anymore.
No.
We're going somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's violent and it's active.
Kubrick's reaching his hand out and he's like, wake up.
Right. Because I'm going to show you some real stuff.
You wait till you see this.
Yeah, exactly.
This is all the tricks that he had up his sleeve 10 years before this movie was made. Well, many of them.
Right. And it's interesting that you bring that up. I hadn't thought about it at all, but there has to be a distinct break between all of the journey of discovery up to this point, which is that quiet, you're in space, it's silent. There has to be a way to shake you out of that, to prep you for now you're into the real psychological portion of the movie. There has to be a transition to that part.
He uses it. He does it visually, but he also does it with the music as well. So the music is the Ligeti music.
Yes.
When we're looking at the crazy, I mean, not the beauty, of the Jovian system. But then the music, like, kind of, it changes. It's subdued. I think it's just really sound, and then there's music. There's more Ligeti music, but it's different.
That's right. There's a combination of sound like rumbling.
Yes.
And then there's a transition back to that Ligeti music.
Right.
So we see I'm trying to remember which comes first. There's the First we see what look like stars being formed, galaxies.
Well, I disagree. I think first we see streaks. So we see the split.
Oh, you're right. You're
screen, right.
Yes.
And on one side we see a certain pattern of streaks, and on the other side we see a different pattern of streaks, red and green. I forget which way it starts, but we see that, and it's like, so for me, obviously there's the sense of motion, right? Mm-hmm. So you're traveling, but you're also, it seems like traveling at very, very high speed.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm getting from that.
Now imagine seeing these effects in 1968.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, they hold up now.
Yeah.
They hold up now. And before I had read the making of how did they get these effects, I remember staring at it just a few years ago thinking, how the hell did they do this?
Well,
So in particular, the after we go through some of the colored streaks, which look like computer animation, then we go into that what looks like stars being born or galaxies forming, something unknown but clearly cosmic. Are we looking back in time? Who knows?
right.
And I remember looking at those effects again, thinking, how was that achieved? Now that I know how it was, it's like I'm any magic trick. When you know how the magic trick is done, you're like, oh, of course, it's obvious.
Well, don't
Right?
tell me, because
But I'm not. I won't tell you. I
Yeah.
won't tell you. But it's still very cool. I mean, even if you know how, it's still very cool.
Well, I just kind of came up with this kind of progression of these images and an interpretation of them, and I kind of want to let that kind of boil in my mind for a couple months, because I don't know that I ever dissected it as much as this, just because we were going to do this video. I actually like sat there and went like, well, wait a minute. This looks like a scene from Koyaanisqatsi. This looks like technology taken from an aerial view. At least that's what those first streaks, the split screen streaks, seem like to me. And then the shapes started to become a little more organic. They look like bubbly, like kind of like swirls of color, like you would take a paint in a glycerin or something, like, and swirl it around.
You're not far. You're not far off. How
close, huh? Yeah. Did you ever see the test where they've done that, where they'll take a cylinder and they'll put paint drops in it? And this is to talk about organization chaos theory. And they'll stir it like 4 times this way, and it's completely swirled. And then they'll stir it 4 times back, and the droplets look almost the same as they were originally.
Yeah, I think I've seen
really
that.
That has more to do with like fluid mediums. I think it has to do with anything that any esoteric is trying to prove by that, but it's just a really neat experiment.
Totally.
Yeah. And then and as he's going through, instead of the shaky rumbly, we
now
see
it's still shots. Yeah.
And he's like turning away from it, but he can't take his eyes off it. It's like, it's terrifying, but I still have to look at it, because
but exactly. But not only that, it's so much more effective. Those brief, almost subliminal still shots are so much more effective at convincing you that he's seeing something that is just shredding his sanity. He's seeing things that are incomprehensible. And he could have, a lesser director would have had him, I don't know, sitting in a sound studio going, ah, and screaming, or things like that. Right. Again, but because there's no motion and it's still shot, psychologically, it's much more powerful than showing a regular full motion actor screaming in a helmet.
You sound a little like Daffy Duck when you did that. I love that. And I've never been so insulted in all my life.
Duck Dodgers in the 23rd and a half century.
I love that one. Yeah.
And then it just goes to the blinking eye.
Well,